This is the story of a 23-year-old Black woman who developed the only effective treatment for leprosy in 1915, saved thousands of lives, and then watched her own research advisor steal her discovery. He renamed it after himself and rode that stolen credit all the way to the presidency of a university. Her name was Alice Augusta Ball. For nearly 60 years, the world forgot she ever existed. To understand what Alice accomplished, you need to understand the disease she fought. Leprosy, now called Hansen's disease, ranked among the most feared afflictions in human history. It didn't just ravage your body, it obliterated your place in society. In Hawaii, King Kamehameha V signed the act to prevent the spread of leprosy in 1865. That law didn't simply regulate treatment, it criminalized the disease itself. On January 6, 1866, the Hawaiian Board of Health shipped the first 12 leprosy patients to the remote Kalaupapa Peninsula on Molokai. Over the next century, more than 8,000 people would be banished there. Families were torn apart. People were exiled to a strip of land surrounded by ocean on 3 sides and towering sea cliffs on the 4th. 46% of patients died within their first 5 years. Children were ripped from parents, husbands from wives. There was no appeal, no cure, only isolation and death. One substance offered a glimmer of hope. Chaulmoogra oil extracted from tropical tree seeds had been used in traditional Indian Ayurvedic medicine as far back as 600 BC. Chinese physicians used it in the 14th century. A British doctor introduced it to Western medicine in 1854. But the oil had a brutal problem. It was incredibly thick and viscous. Swallowing it made you vomit. Injecting it formed painful abscesses under the skin. Doctors had been trying for decades to make chaulmoogra oil actually usable in a patient's body. None of them succeeded. Then along came Alice Ball. Alice was born on July 24, 1892, in Seattle, Washington, into a remarkable family. Her grandfather, James Presley Ball Sr., was one of the first African Americans to master daguerreotype photography. Her father worked as a newspaper editor, photographer, and lawyer. You can imagine young Alice watching the complex chemical processes of early photography unfold in her household, developing an eye for precision and a fascination with how substances transform. In 1902, her family moved to Honolulu, hoping the warmer climate would help her grandfather's arthritis. He died 2 years later, and the family returned to Seattle. But Hawaii had left its mark. Alice excelled academically. She graduated from Seattle High School in 1910, then earned not 1, but 2 bachelor's degrees from the University of Washington. One in pharmaceutical chemistry in 1912, another in pharmacy in 1914. As an undergraduate, she co-authored a paper on benzoylation reactions published in the Journal of the American Chemical Society, making her one of the first Black American women to publish in a major scientific journal. She was just getting started. She returned to Hawaii for graduate school at the College of Hawaii, and in 1915, she became the first woman and first African American to earn a master's degree from that institution. She was immediately offered an instructor position in chemistry, again the first woman and first Black American to hold that role. That same year, a physician named Harry T. Holman approached her. Holman worked at Hawaii's leprosy investigation station, and he had a problem that no one could solve. He needed someone who could make chaulmoogra oil actually work as a treatment. He'd heard about Ball's exceptional chemistry skills, and he asked for her help. What happened next was extraordinary. Working off duty, without pay, Alice Ball solved a problem that had stumped older, more experienced chemists for decades. She did it in under a year, at age 23. Her technique was elegant. She developed a method to chemically modify the fatty acids in chaulmoogra oil by converting them into ethyl esters, a form that was water-soluble and could be safely injected without causing the painful lesions or nausea of the raw oil. The substance retained all of the oil's therapeutic properties while being stable enough for clinical use. And it worked. Holman tested the treatment on his patients and found that the ethyl esters were bactericidal, capable of killing the bacteria that caused leprosy. For the first time in history, there was an effective, deliverable treatment for Hansen's disease. Then, on a day in September 1916, while instructing her chemistry class, Alice Ball suffered exposure to chlorine gas. She became seriously ill. She took a leave of absence and returned to Seattle. On December 31, 1916, Alice Augusta Ball died. She was 24 years old. Her death certificate lists tuberculosis as the cause. It also lists her race as white. She never had the chance to publish her findings. And this is where the story turns ominous. Arthur L. Dean was a chemistry professor at the College of Hawaii. He had been Ball's graduate study advisor. He was also the dean of the college, and he was privy to every detail of her research. After Ball's death, Dean continued her work. By 1919, the college laboratory was producing large quantities of the injectable chaulmoogra extract. But when Dean published the results, he did so without ever mentioning Alice Ball's name. He presented the discovery as his own. He called it the Dean method. In 1920, 78 patients were discharged from Kalihi Hospital after successful treatment. A year later, 94 more were treated. The U.S. Public Health Service reported that patient morale had drastically improved. This was a landmark moment in the history of medicine, and Arthur Dean received all the credit. He went on to become president of the University of Hawaii. A building on campus, Dean Hall, was named in his honor. As Sabrina Collins, executive director of the Marburger STEM Center, put it plainly, two men did steal her work and didn't give her any credit for her contributions. But there was one person who refused to let Alice Ball's name disappear. In 1922, Harry Holman published a paper in the Archives of Dermatology and Syphilology. In it, he coined the term the Ball method and gave full credit to Alice for the breakthrough. He wrote directly, "After a great deal of experimental work, Miss Ball solved the problem for me." He rejected Dean's claims outright, stating, "I cannot see that there is any improvement whatsoever over the original technique as worked out by Miss Ball." It didn't matter. Dean's version of history prevailed. For decades, textbooks and medical journals credited him. Alice Ball's name vanished. It wasn't until the 1970s that two University of Hawaii professors, Catherine Takara and Stanley Ali, dug through the institution's archives and found evidence of what had really happened. They brought Alice Ball back from obscurity. Since then, the recognition has been slow but steadily growing. In 2000, the University of Hawaii dedicated a plaque in her honor. In 2007, she received the university's highest distinction. In 2019, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine added her name to its building frieze alongside Florence Nightingale and Marie Curie. In 2022, she was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. In December 2024, a life-size bronze bust was installed at Hamilton Library on campus. And in 2026, the American Chemical Society designated the Ball method a National Historic Chemical Landmark. There are ongoing calls to rename Dean Hall to Alice Ball Hall. As of today, the building still carries Arthur Dean's name. Gregory Petsko, an adjunct professor at Harvard Medical School, said something that captures the real tragedy here. What a waste that she died in her 20s. Most chemists don't hit their stride until their 30s or 40s. Just imagine what she could have done if she had lived. The Ball method remained the primary treatment for leprosy until antibiotics arrived in the 1940s. For almost 30 years, it was the only thing standing between thousands of patients and a life of exile. Alice Augusta Ball gave the world that. She deserves to be remembered for it.